Hi everyone, my name is Shruti, and today I'm going to be going over a coding problem with you. Let's start by reading the problem statement and just taking note of any pieces of notable or actionable information. The problem statement says, write a function twins that takes a string as input and returns a copy of the string where every character is repeated twice. Okay, that seems generally straightforward, but thankfully we've also been given some examples that we can use to clarify our understanding of what this program, what this function ultimately needs to do. We're told that if we're given the input string ABC, we want to return AA, BB, CC. That makes sense. We see how each character in that input was repeated twice. Then if we were similarly given an input A, we'd want to return AA. If we're given an empty string, because there is no character in an empty string to repeat, we'd also just return an empty string. Great. Now, whenever I'm given a question like this, I find that a particularly helpful way to start thinking about solutions is to ask this question. If this task that I'm supposed to write into code was given to me as a human to do, how would I go about doing it? In other words, say that your friend came up to you outside of CS class, outside of any context related to coding, and said, I have a string, ABC. Can you please return to me another string where each letter in ABC has been repeated twice? Let's think about how we would go about doing this on paper to give our friend the result that he or she asked for. We've been given this input string ABC. Right now, we don't know what our result is, so we're sort of starting with an empty string as our answer for our friend. Then we take a look at the first character in ABC, which is A, and we say, okay, our friend said to repeat every character twice. So maybe that means that our answer will start with AA. We take a look at the next character, B, and say, okay, that needs to be repeated twice. So let me add BB on top of that AA. We do the same with C, get CC over there, and then notice that there are no more letters to repeat. So we have our final answer, which is AA, BB, CC. And that's the correct answer, as we recall from the problem statement examples that were given to us. Cool. Now let's take a second to reflect on all of the things that we did in that process, any strategies that we took so that we can ultimately generalize it to a logic for our code. First, you'll recall that we started with an empty string, and then we built up our answer incrementally. In other words, we went from the empty string to AA to AABB and so forth. Second, you'll notice that the work done at each letter was the exact same. We just added it twice to that answer we were creating. So work done at each letter, whether it was A or B or C, was the same. Finally, you'll note that the work that we were doing at each character needed to be built on top of or added to the previous work that we had already done. So the work done at each character needs to build on top of previous work, which is saved. In other words, when we were making C into CC, we didn't just add it to another empty string, we added it on top of the AA, BB that we had already created. Based on this, we can go ahead and start writing our solution. Today, I'm going to be writing the solution in Python, but of course, if you're more comfortable with another programming language, let me know, and we can work on a solution in that language as well. So we have def twins, and we're going to be taking a string as an input. Let's just call that input for the sake of clarity. Now, based on the notes that we took from the strategy that I just described, we know that we're going to be creating some sort of answer string. We'll call it answer, and it starts out as an empty string. We want to build on answer incrementally, as we noted, and we also noted that the work done at each letter of the input string is the exact same. In other words, it's repeated in a sort of loop. Now, of course, this indicates that a for loop might be helpful for us. In other words, we might want to loop through each letter in input and do the same type of processing for each letter before we ultimately drop out of the for loop and return the answer that we've created. Now, because we decided that we're going to build up the answer incrementally, and because we know that the work done on each letter is to add it twice, your immediate intuition might tell you, hey, I know what I need to do. In the for loop, I just need to have answer equal to letter plus letter. However, at this point, you should recall the third note that you made here, which is that the work done at each character needs to build on top of previous work. In other words, you don't just want to overwrite the answer that you have in each iteration of the for loop, but you want to add the duplicated letters on top of the answer that you created in the previous iteration. In other words, we want answer equals answer plus letter plus letter. Now here we're done, but just to make sure that our code works as expected, we'd want to do a quick test. You can imagine that you have input A, B, and if you go through here, you'd see that answer would first become AA and then AABB. You can test this out further on your own. For the sake of time, I'm not going to do so here, but I'm happy to work on this with you further. Thank you so much and have a great day.